All right, so now that we've finished talking about DEF CON and Black Hat, let's jump into a completely different topic, but yet still the same. So a local Cincinnati buddy of mine, his name is Matt Scherer. He runs a security interest group, a SIG, and he also does a lot of other things. He's in the IT field for a banking organization. He does presentations at different cons, if you want to call them that, different events. And he's part of a leadership group in one of the certification spaces, if you want to call it that. And I don't want to take too much of his thunder, so I'm going to give him a chance to talk about himself. So let's bring him in. Matt, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you for having me on again, Dave. It's a pleasure to be back here speaking with you. So for the audience, yes, my name is Matt Scheer. I know Dave fairly well. I get around pretty much around the Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky tri-state around information security events and so forth. So I belong to a number of local organizations. As you alluded to, I run the Cincinnati Networking Professionals Association Security Special Interest Group, which I will henceforth refer to as the CINPA Security SIG because otherwise it's too many words.
Right on. I've always, every time I've thought to say that name in its full title, I think I get intimidated by, am I going to say the names in the wrong order or just completely blow it? So I usually just do what I did, which is SIG and CINPA myself. So awesome. Well, and as you alluded to, you're back again. And for those that may have missed Matt on a previous episode, you certainly want to go back and take a listen. Matt is always a great guest for us. And he also, as I mentioned, does a lot of his own presentations, and he's developed his own content that is not just some regurgitated something or another that he heard or read online. So Matt is a pioneer in and of his own right in doing some things, and we're certainly going to get into that. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring Matt back on this time around is that there is a series of events going around the U.S. that is called SecureWorld, and it is effectively a one-day security topic-based presentations, some vendors, but they go on in different cities around the U.S. and not just one or two, but by the 30s, I think there's 30 or 40 of these things over the course of a year. One of them is coming up in Cincinnati in October, and this year a new thing that Matt and some others came up with was, hey, let's get together some leaders from different groups, the ISC, ISSA, EC Council, et cetera, and let's put together a roundtable, and let's talk about the different things that these organizations bring to the table as far as the IT field, security field in specific, and at the local level, what do these organizations provide us, those of us who are in the field, and how do they help us do our jobs, or how do they help us educate ourselves? And Matt has been a very big part of driving that locally and regionally. So that's one part of tonight's conversation with Matt. Another part is that there are so many new things almost daily and weekly. We all see it in the InfoSec field, that how do we keep track of what's important to us, and how do we take it and bubble it down to what works for us or what we need in our day-to-day jobs. And I think Matt has had some good ideas in his presentations. I think he's had some things that maybe those of us may not have thought about in the past that he talks about. So we certainly want to touch on those. So Matt, let's kind of start at the SecureWorld, and let's talk about how did the idea of adding the roundtable to the SecureWorld event in Cincinnati come up, and talk a little bit about the organizations that are going to participate in that roundtable event.
Sure, absolutely. There are a lot of great organizations around the Cincinnati area that pertain to security, information security. One of the individuals that's involved on the ISSA board, Micah Brown, is sort of the person driving the roundtable idea. He was in touch with the SecureWorld Cincinnati organizers, had some thoughts on maybe adding a little bit of a local flair, a little bit of a local flavor, since certainly people travel in from outside of the region to come to these events. But by and large, you get a lot of individuals from the local region, and you may not see them at a lot of the other security events, and it could simply be just because they don't know that these other organizations are around. The CINPA Security SIG, for example, has been around for over 14 years. Not a lot of people know that. We certainly have our core audience, and we're fairly popular, but in some regards, if people aren't looking for it or happen to catch it by word of mouth, they may not know we're out there. There are other organizations like ISSA, ISC Squared. They have national presence, so when they have chapters, OWASP is another great one. There's certainly a lot of them. ISACA on the governance, risk, and compliance side for auditors. All these organizations are well known if they have a national presence, but there are a lot of local groups, and sometimes if people are familiar with the parent organization, they don't realize there are local chapters available, and those are great resources to network with other peers in your community, and it's really great from a professional standpoint. You never know when you're going to look for talent, or you may find yourself in a position where you need to find different employment. Those situations where you have an opportunity to network with others can really open up doors that you may not otherwise know about. It's also a great place just to stay abreast on what's happening within the information security space. As you talked about, things are constantly changing, so it's great just to have a place where you can go talk to other people, get different ideas, perspectives, get different voices and different thoughts, and learn about those things. And one of the things that Mike has been trying to do is work with the organizations from the outside that come into our community to try to help them get their events, again, that local presence, give it a little more of a personalized touch, if you will. It means something when you have individuals that are from the local community showing up and they're talking about what's going on in the area, and it's really sort of a win-win. So you have the national presence, people that are familiar with a SecureWorld, for example, that may not be familiar with the groups. Conversely, we have people that come to our local groups that maybe SecureWorld wasn't on their radar, and we can talk about it, and they decide, yes, this is something I should check out and be part of.
And it's, for me, I think one of the things that last year's SecureWorld was my first visit with them in Cincinnati. I was one of those who just didn't know that they existed and actually only bumped into them last year. And having attended larger, events that we all know about, the Black Hats, the DEF CONs, the RSAs, whatever, seeing these events at a more local/personal level is awesome. I also last year got to bump into a B-Sides Cincy event for the first time ever, where actually I ran into you. I mean, I knew you before that, but we didn't talk about going there, and then sure enough, there we both were, and Micah was there too, and others, and it's just amazing how that community, the little tentacles and the fingers of InfoSec, at least around our region, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and I'm sure others, how that is helping to spread that community and that interaction. One of the things that I found beneficial last year at B-Sides was that I ultimately bumped into somebody that was doing some great work with sandboxing and some other automation to take a look at suspicious emails. And I don't have that particular skill set. And by meeting that person and talking about that endeavor that he was going after, I actually jumped into kind of a demo situation with them, to where, not demo, that's the wrong word, more of a tester, and beginning to see how that stuff was working. And then just ultimately a couple of months ago, he took that project on a larger scale to GitHub and get more help. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that I was there looking for one thing. I found something else that I didn't know I was looking for, and became highly interested in learning how to better develop my own email sandboxing methodology for the hospital systems I work for. And it was great to meet people that had that wide range of skill sets that I don't have, that I could put together as a toolbox, if you will, of things that people can do and sharing that knowledge. So I did not have that experience at SecureWorld last year because I spent a lot of time listening, but not a lot of time talking and networking, whereas this year I'm certainly going to change that focus. I'm going to be more proactive, of course. So tell me a little bit about your experience having gone to a B-Sides and a SecureWorld, and I know you're up in Dayton, Ohio, you're up in Columbus, Ohio, and doing presentations. Talk a little bit about, from your point of view, and the things that you do in the IT field, how going to these more local and regional events have possibly helped you or made some sort of difference in your daily work.
Great. Yeah, I think that I've never really gone to a conference where I've been either an active listener or an active participant that I didn't come back inspired to learn more, inspired to do more. And for me, the networking aspects are really what I got out of SecureWorld last year. It was a great place to sort of meet other people and talk to them. Also, there's a good vendor presence there, so a number of vendor representatives that I'm in fairly regular communication with, they were there, and it was great to be able to talk to them about what they're currently working on, what they have to offer, and what they're doing. As I travel to other conferences, it really sort of depends on the conference itself. Almost all of them have their own personality. I've been to B-Sides events. I've spoken at B-Sides events in 4 different cities. They all are a little bit different, and it's those little nuances that you start to appreciate. B-Sides Cincinnati is probably the favorite venue for me personally that I've spoken at. I just really loved the theater where that event was held. It was really done well, and for me personally, that was a great place to talk. But really, I've enjoyed going to. I've spoken at B-Sides Cleveland, B-Sides Cincinnati, B-Sides Columbus, B-Sides Indianapolis, and it's nice to see familiar faces at all of them and just get to interact with people. And you just see a lot of great topics, and to your point, it's sometimes things that you didn't really think about or were top of mind, or I sort of knew this was out there, but I didn't really have a lot of focus on it because as security professionals, we always have more on our plate than we can actually digest at any one time. So you have to sort of prioritize things. But they're great places to stay up on knowledge and understanding what's out there, who's doing what, the different frameworks that are out there, things that offensive security is, the things that are happening there, things that are happening in defensive security, people that try to bridge the gaps in between. And they're just great places to go. And for me personally, I get a lot out of interacting with folks at those. I know I've met a lot of amazing people, and it sort of almost becomes a fraternity when you start speaking at the same conference as some other individuals. It's kind of funny, you stay in touch with folks and you get to know them a little bit. So you definitely make new friendships out there on the road, and that's been really valuable to me personally.
I can't agree more and really stress how much that whole statement about meeting people and then seeing them kind of on the conference tour per se, whether you're a speaker or an attendee. A great example for me was in Cincinnati at B-Sides. I met Danny Akaski, who was this year's keynote speaker here in Cincinnati, but he's also very highly involved out at DEF CON in Vegas. And he puts together this after-hours event called Whose Slide Is It Anyway, marketed clearly after the old TV, Whose Line Is It Anyway comedy show. And he put together this thing where they basically, people sign up, it doesn't matter who you are, and you come up on stage and you pick a number 1 through 50, and you get a slide deck of about 5 minutes worth of PowerPoint slides that are completely ridiculous and unrelated to each other. And the goal is you have to present as a cohesive topic and intended to try to sound as serious as you possibly can. And it's hilarious. Either people completely melt down on stage or they just are insanely funny. And they have judges who, within the first 2 minutes, the point system goes out the board because everybody wins. That's the kind of goal. I didn't know what to expect. I signed up, and I was immediately flabbergasted by how great that event. And the point being is that all these people who, during the day at DEF CON and some I had seen at Black Hat, were very much walking around with what I thought was a very stiff neck and the whole, I do security better than you kind of attitude, right? That's how it appeared. And then I saw them with a couple, 2, 3 beers in them and doing this thing with Danny's stuff, and completely different side of them. And it was amazing how much I was able to step back and realize that I had misjudged some people, and it gave me an opportunity to check myself a little bit and then to go up and meet these people and make friends with them. And Mr. Breakfast Pants, if you're listening, and I hope that you are, I have to tell you that you were probably hands down the single funniest damn thing I have ever seen at any kind of event like that. That your slide presentation was absolutely hilarious. In your first 2 minutes, I thought you were going to bomb it and completely tank, and then somehow you recovered and were hilarious. So Breakfast Pants, you were awesome. I really don't even know your real name, but I don't even care because you were funny, and I follow you on Twitter. But I digress. I want to make sure that everybody knows that what Matt has said has been exactly my personal experiences at these events, whether they are the larger national events. And SecureWorld has its niche. It has its place. I don't know if the organizers of that thing that we call SecureWorld, I don't know if their goal is to ever reach the mega 5-day, one city, everybody in the world flies into me kind of event. I don't think that's what they're trying to do, but maybe they are. But I can tell you that their format that I've experienced so far, one day, big cities, smaller mid-sized cities, let people be able to drive in and spend a day and not have to fly in and pay hotel fees and things like that, is outstanding. And the talent that they find at these regional events, people like Matt here and others who speak in Cincinnati and others who are from Columbus, Ohio, willing to drive, and vice versa. Matt driving up to Columbus, which is 100 miles away. And the talent that you find in these regions cannot be understated at all. There are people who, just because they haven't written books that are mainstream, and just because they aren't on radio all the time or on TV for some reason all the time, don't discount their capabilities and the knowledge and experience that you're going to get from them. And Matt, I certainly second your feelings about how great of a set of experiences you had. With SecureWorld, with this year being my second, and I haven't said it yet, but Micah and others asked if I would be interested in kind of being the host, the moderator, per se, of the roundtable event. And I couldn't type yes in my email fast enough to be even remotely involved with something like that. Is awesome for me to be able to sit up there and hear questions from the audience and make sure that everybody gets a chance to answer, and even to possibly throw in my own questions during this time is an experience I'm definitely looking forward to. What about this roundtable event do you think is going to be the biggest benefit, if there is such a thing as the biggest benefit? But what at least what do you hope that we'll get out of this roundtable event in Cincinnati, with this being the first time that's being tried?
Sure. I think people will hopefully come away with the understanding there's an awful lot of groups out there, so everybody's got different schedules in their lives, and some days of the week are better for them than others, or different parts of the month. The really neat thing is that all of the groups tend to meet on different nights. So sometimes based on your geography within the area or your personal schedule or even your professional schedule, you can probably find something that you can make on a monthly basis. And my advice is give each of these meetup groups a try at least, a few times over, the span of a couple years, just to see what they have to offer. There's certainly a good amount of overlap between the groups, but each group also has its own format and its own personality, and sometimes we take things from one group to another, and that's perfectly fine. This isn't a competition of, our group must be better than yours. This is more about sharing in the community, and when you see something that works well in one group, you apply it to yours. Sometimes you see elements that others will take from your group and apply it to their own. Ultimately, these things are designed to sort of rise all boats in the tide and really just make an overall better experience for everyone. But with that being said, there are things that are unique to each organization. So the ISSA chapter, Micah Brown is a board member. He will be one of the panelists. The chapter president, Gary McMullen from ISC Squared, will be there. The chair for the Cincinnati SMBA, which is the Security Masters of Beer Appreciation, will be there. Of course, I will be there, and you will be moderating and sort of hosting. And it should be really a great event, and to sort of understand what makes each group unique and find out more about when they meet. There's even more groups than that, and it's unfortunate that I feel like we can only get so many people into a panel, because there are some groups that are in the area, and I hope to have some sort of documentation printed up to sort of cover the ones that I know about to hand out to others. And there's just really a lot of different – I know you've had the Cyber at UC group, the University of Cincinnati OWASP chapter, on your show before. It's another great meetup group in the area. And, again, different schedules, different times, different parts of the city and surrounding areas. We've got a lot of great stuff happening. So hopefully it's a chance to learn about those.
Yep, you're right. And I'm glad you mentioned that Cyber at UC group. I want to call them kids because they're all younger than my kids, but, they're 19 and 20-some-year-old kids, whatever, college students, that freshmen to fifth-year seniors with some faculty advisement. But these kids have went from a introductory group to a very large phenomena in a very short amount of time, to be honest. My experience with them was very enlightening, visiting them on campus a few months ago and seeing the amount of dollars from Cisco and others that they've already had donated to them, and the data center that they're putting together and the lab that they're putting together is outstanding. And you don't have to be a UC student to be a part of that group. So you're right. They're one small example of how maybe there's no organized thing like an ISC Squared or an ISSA, but they decided, like, hey, we all have this common interest. Let's put something together and get out there and learn and whatever. And, man, what a great phenomena that's carrying over as a small local group. And it's certainly a reproducible thing that others can do. So hopefully people will model them. But what do you find, as we kind of get ready to come to an end to this interview, but what do you find is I don't want to say benefits because that's not what I mean, but what do you find from as far as like the different groups? You mentioned a lot, ISC Squared, ISSA, and ISACA and others, and then many other groups that we haven't yet mentioned yet. But I find that a lot of people aren't just a member of one because they're either their jobs or their personal interest. You find a lot of crossovers. People attend different groups, different events, and gain that crossover knowledge. Do you find that that is one of the bigger benefits to having these groups all in one area? I mean, is there a bigger benefit? Yeah, I'm sure there's a list of benefits, but I'm trying to figure out in my mind what, as I look at these groups and the things that I participate in myself, I find that I'm spread so thin because I want to do so much, and I just don't have the time. How do you judge where you want to be? Is it all personal driven? Is it work driven? Is it just the people are awesome and you want to spend time with them driven? How do you figure out where to spend your time?
I believe for myself personally, I try to get around to everything a little bit. There are some groups I'm able to hit more than others just because of location, schedule, that sort of thing. Sometimes you have to make hard choices, and the hard choices for me often boil down to, is the topic relevant to what I need to know? Is it something where I feel like I'm deficient in or I can get better at or where I will really learn something? So if I have to make a hard choice, it boils down to what is given in a particular month. And not every meetup group has something that is high level of interest or a high area of need. For example, if it's something within my realms of expertise and it's geared towards an audience that doesn't have that level of expertise, I might have to skip that meeting that month. Doesn't mean that a month later, 2-3 months later, that they may not have a topic that's very on point, and I'll go back. So when I have to make hard choices, it really boils down to the topics. And most groups are very good about announcing ahead of time what they're going to be presenting on.
You're right. I think that is probably along the lines of how I decide for myself as well. So I'm glad that I was worried that, honestly, that I was selling groups short or selling myself short in some cases. And I think hearing you say it out loud as well gives me a reason to think, yes, I kind of do it in that same way too, and that's not bad. And not every topic is needy for me, and I certainly am no expert on every topic that people want to hear me talk about either. So I try to find that happy balance as well. For those of you, again, who don't know, Matt, October is the Cincinnati SecureWorld event. As much as I hate to admit, I don't, is 20th or 25th for Cincinnati is this year's event. October.
Actually, it is on October 17th. 17th, there you go. I have no idea why I thought 20th or 25th, but I want to make sure that we say it. October 17th is at the Sharonville Convention Center, which is a suburb of Cincinnati to the north. SecureWorldExpo.com is the URL to track down all their cities. I mean, they have, let me take a quick look and see where they're coming up at soon, but I know like the Twin Cities in Minneapolis, Bay Area in California, Detroit, St. Louis, Dallas, Denver, Seattle, all coming up in the coming months. And if you don't know Secure World, go check them out. Their events, the vendors that will be there, the speakers that will be at each event. There are ways to be able to attend this event free in certain areas. There are some areas you have to pay to attend, but frankly, I can tell you it's worth every penny if you do have to pay. It's certainly a value that I was lucky to find last year, and I guarantee I'll be a participant in some form or factor every single year from this point moving forward. And for those of you who have not ever heard of it, SecureWorldExpo.com.
Matt, thank you again for joining us. Thanks for hopefully helping Micah find me and asking me to be a part of this thing. I am so geared up and excited to be there in October that I keep talking about this, excuse me, and I keep making sure or trying to make sure that we get different people associated with this event on air with us. I know that Micah is an upcoming guest that we're working on scheduling, but he should be with us within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So, Micah, we're looking forward to having you on as well. Be prepared. I've got hard questions like what is your favorite Twitter feed that you follow? So be prepared for the tough, inquiring minds want to know sort of questions. All right. Matt, again, thank you, my friends. It's good to hear from you. Hopefully I will see you again in person soon, if not before October, at least in October. And anything that we didn't talk about that you think, man, Dave, you should have asked me about this, or any URL, especially about your own SIG, contact info, whatever, please blurt it out. The stage is yours.
Sure. So the first thing I would like to direct anybody to is the meetup.com. There's a group out there called Tech Life Cincinnati. The CINPA Security SIG meetings are always posted out there. Our next meeting is going to be next Thursday evening, and the details are out there. It is Operationalizing Threat Intelligence with Anomaly. That's on September 17th. We have a lot of great stuff coming up in the subsequent months. The security SIG that I run, we actually organized the CINPA main meeting, which is in a different evening, different facility, and the details out there are also in Tech Life Cincinnati on meetup.com. This year I have our feature speaker is Daryl Highland, who is world-renowned as an information security researcher. He is the IoT research lead at Rapid7. I'm going to be going on before him, and this is the 19th year that we've done that. It's on the evening of December 5th, and it's called the CINPA Hackers Night. This is the 19th year running for that event, and we're sort of sticking with the offensive security theme for our December 20th meeting for the CINPA Security SIG. Even though we run the main meeting in the first week in December, we're still on our regular third Thursday of the month. On December 20th, I am hosting an offensive security workshop. We're going to have a TCP attack session. We're going to do a password cracking workshop session, and then we're going to wrap up with shell shock vulnerability exploit session. So should be a lot of fun. Bring a laptop with you with VirtualBox installed.
Nice.
Also,
before you finish, I just want to tell people that my show usually airs 9 p.m. Eastern live, and on occasion I get to pre-record some interviews, and then we just upload the interviews, and I have to find something to do with my time on those Thursdays. And Matt can tell you that he'll see me. He'll know when I'm not live on air because he usually sees my face in their audience. But that particular event, those offensive nights and the hacker events in December, I will be there. I will find a way to pre-record something or take the week off or something. But I will see how good I think I really am compared to how good I really am that night as well. So sorry, that's an exciting date that I was not yet aware of. So as you mentioned that, I was typing to set my own notes.
Great. The last plug I have, anybody wants to follow my Twitter handle, it's at C3RKAH. All of my events I publicize out there. It's another good way to stay on top of the events I have. Anybody wants to hit me up on LinkedIn as well. I post all my meetings out there, usually starting 2 weeks in advance and then Monday the week of the meeting. But shameless self-promoter in those regards.
You know what? And that's entirely okay, because if you are doing things where others can benefit, getting the word out in my mind is not a bad thing. So I am glad that I can at least give you a small platform to help put those words out. And again, for those of you who have not heard of a SecureWorld event, check them out at SecureWorldExpo.com. Check out Matt if you're in the greater Cincinnati area and the Cincinnati CINPA group, and look them up on meetup.com, as Matt has just mentioned. And we'll see you in October in Cincinnati at SecureWorld Cincinnati. For those of you who don't know who I am, just look for the big bald head dude walking around with a badge on that says Dave the IT Guy, and come up and say hi. I will make sure that I introduce you to the real movers and shakers like Matt and Micah and others in the Cincinnati region. So, Matt, again, thank you for joining us, and I'll see you again soon, buddy.
All right. Thanks for having me, Dave.